Today, we're going deep on a personality type that you absolutely know, but probably don't fully get. We're talking about the silent observer. You know, the one in our meetings, in our friend groups, even in our own families. And that quiet nature, well, it holds some fascinating secrets.
Oh yeah, you've been there. We all have. You see them just listening, taking it all in, not saying a single word. And it's so easy to assume they're just not interested, maybe they're shy, or they just don't have anything to add. But what if that silence isn't empty at all? What if it's actually jam-packed with observation, with analysis, and yeah, even strategy? That's what we're going to unpack.
All right, let's get into it. First things first, we've got to clear the air and get past all the usual stereotypes. We need a really clear definition of who we're actually talking about here.
Okay, so here's the absolute key. It is not about an inability to speak. It's about a priority to observe. Think of them as data collectors, first and foremost. They're trying to build a complete mental picture before they ever decide to pick up a brush and add their own stroke to the canvas. Now this is where we untangle a few things that people always mix up. You see, an introvert might be quiet because they need to manage their social energy. A shy person might be quiet because they're afraid of being judged. But the silent observer? They're quiet because it is their strategy for understanding the world. Their motivation is to get clarity, and their silence is a very conscious choice.
So how does this actually play out in real life? Well, this isn't just some personality quirk. It's a whole systematic way of processing information, and it's built on some really powerful habits.
So, the first and most fundamental habit is this deliberate choice to watch and listen instead of just jumping right into the conversation. But let's be super clear. Observation here is anything but passive.
And this really shows you what's actually going on in their heads while they're quiet. They're not just hearing the words, they're noticing that tiny shift in someone's posture when a tricky subject comes up. They're tracking who's interrupting who. They're piecing together all this unspoken data that, frankly, most of us completely miss because we're too busy thinking about what we're going to say next.
So you have all of this rich, detailed data, the body language, the unspoken power dynamics, and it's not just getting filed away. Nope, it's being actively processed. And that leads directly to their next habit, this almost uncanny ability to see patterns where everyone else just sees chaos. This is so key. Because they've been observing so intensely, they can actually see the echoes of past conversations inside the current one. They can often predict where a discussion is headed, not because they're psychic, but because they've already identified the underlying patterns of behavior and logic that are at play. It's incredible.
Okay, so they're taking in all this information, they're seeing the patterns. So what happens next? Well, this is where we get into the real power of their internal world.
You gotta understand, before a silent observer says anything out loud, there's often an entire conversation that's already happened inside their own head. They're testing out ideas, they're playing devil's advocate with their own arguments, and they are refining their point until it's as sharp and as clear as it can possibly be. And the end result of all that internal rehearsal is this fourth habit. When they finally do decide to speak, it's not to fill dead air. It's because they have something to say. Every single word is chosen for maximum impact and clarity. It's all killer, no filler.
This slide just lays out their process perfectly. It's like a funnel, right? They absorb this massive, wide base of information at the top. Then they process it, they filter out everything that isn't absolutely essential, they formulate the core idea, and only then, at the very end, do they speak. It's a beautiful process of distillation.
So when you start putting all these habits together, the deep observation, the pattern recognition, the internal rehearsal, what you get is something, well, it's something incredibly powerful.
First, because they're just constantly gathering that raw data, they develop this amazing sensitivity. They literally see the subtle cues and the hidden dynamics that everyone else is just too busy talking to notice. And then, they use that incredible pattern recognition not just to understand what's happening right now, but to draw these lines through time. They connect past events to future possibilities, and honestly, they often predict outcomes with surprising accuracy.
And finally, because of all that hard work they did internally, when they do choose to speak, they don't just add to the noise, they cut right through it. They offer this refined, distilled insight that can literally change the entire direction of a conversation.
And this right here, this is the core idea. Their silence isn't the point, it's the tool. It's the laboratory where they create their real superpower, clarity. In a world that is just filled with noise and opinions and chatter, they offer a clear, well-thought-out perspective that can slice through everything else.
Okay, so why does any of this matter in our actual, everyday lives? What does this mean for you? Let's bring it all home.
Look, if you're on a team, do not overlook the quiet one. You need to actively ask for their thoughts. I guarantee you, they've probably spotted a potential problem that nobody else has even considered. In your personal relationships, these are the people who truly listen and can offer you some of the most profound insights. And hey, if this sounds like you need to own it. This is not a social deficit. It is a strategic strength.
Ultimately, it's just a powerful reminder, isn't it? We're so conditioned to value the quick answer, the constant contribution, but what this shows us is that sometimes the greatest value comes only after a period of thoughtful, deliberate silence.
And that's the question I really want to leave you with. In a world that just rewards noise, what are we missing by not listening to the quiet? So the next time you're in a room, pay attention to the quietest person. Don't just see their silence. Try to imagine the incredible amount of processing that's happening just beneath the surface. You might be blown away by the clarity that you find.